Okay, so first off, I've got sort of a head cold, or it might just be allergies. I don't know. The weather here is ridiculous. It's hot one day, cold the next. But that's not gonna stop me from doing this video where I've got 16 different OnePlus 7 Pro cases, if you count the one that came with the OnePlus 7 Pro. And I'll leave a link in the description below with current pricing and more information on each of the cases covered in this video. So first up is the Lucky Me case. I don't know, this is called dark cyan, but to me it looks pretty close to black or a really dark gray. It is a TPU case with a hard plastic back, so it definitely looks pretty durable. So the first test I'm gonna do on all these is check the power button, check the volume button, and make sure you can get to the alert slider. First off, the power button is really easy to use. And it looks like the volume button works pretty good as well. The cutout seems to be pretty good for the pop-up camera. And it does have a flap for the USB-C charging port, so you won't have to worry about dust or anything getting inside. So you can sort of see there isn't a lot of protection for that curved screen. Now the case itself actually sits right below that curved on the side. You can see there is a little bit of a lip on the top and bottom, so you shouldn't have any problems with putting this face down. Now you can get to the alert slider. It's almost impossible to switch unless you have fingernails. So I've got to say, this case is pretty good, except for that alert slider opening. We'll have to see how the other cases address that. It's almost impossible to adjust the alert slider. So the next case we're going to look at is by Upstone. And this one is a transparent case with black around the edges. Okay, so they say this is a hybrid transparent case. This is definitely not heavy duty. It's basically a TPU case with a clear plastic back. I'm sure this is going to be a trend, but there is just a hair of a lip around the screen. So it's going to protect it, but just barely. So the power button on this works perfectly. Because the buttons are flush with the rest of the case, it's really hard to tell where they're located, but they do seem to work just fine. The opening is just a little bit better on the alert slider, but it's still pretty hard to change. Now you can see the back is nice and clear, so you can see the nebula blue pretty good. Unfortunately, this black piece covers up the OnePlus logo, but you still have the OnePlus down here, so I don't know if that's a big deal. And it does have a nice cutout for the triple lens camera on the back. The pop-up camera seems to work just fine. And you can see the cutout for the microphone, USB charging port, and the speaker are pretty accurate. So this case is good as far as looks. Protection-wise is pretty minimal. So this next case is by Vin V, and it's a carbon fiber case. This looks very similar to the Pixel case that I reviewed. Now this is just a flexible TPU material. So the power button probably works the best on this one so far. Same thing with the volume buttons. Really easy to get to since they stick out a little bit. And this is probably the first case where I can use the alert toggle without any problems. So the rear camera cutout looks pretty accurate, so no problems there. No problem with the pop-up selfie camera. And this is the first one where you can actually get to the SIM card tray without taking off the case. So that's definitely a nice feature to have. So yeah, I definitely like this case. It doesn't give you a lot of protection, but it does give you a little bit more grip. The lip is just barely there to protect the screen. But hey, if you have this on, at least your phone doesn't feel like a bar of soap. So the next one up is by Ringke, and this is the Fusion X case in ruby red. And this company also offers other products in case you're interested. Magnetic mounts, charging cables, quick charge, and car mounts. So this one is a hard TPU material all the way around the edges with a transparent clear back to it that feels almost like hard plastic. Alright, so first off, this one actually has a real lip that's going to protect your screen. So extra points to Ringke for giving that extra protection. The power button test, yeah, this one is definitely the best so far. And the volume buttons work pretty good as well. Now the buttons don't really stick out, but there is a little nub in between them, so you can sort of tell they're there. And yeah, this is by far the easiest for the alert slider. So you don't have to let your fingernails grow out just to use this case. That's definitely a positive. You can see the camera cutout for this one is really nice and accurate. And the pop-up selfie camera works just fine. This one does have a cutout for the microphone, the USB-C charging port, and the speaker. So this is probably the best build quality and usability on all the cases so far. The only downside I can see is this maroon color doesn't really go that well with the nebula blue. So the next case is the 2DM Merge. And this one might be the first one that advertises clicky buttons. And this one is the metallic slate. I believe they do have a couple other colors as well. And this one is a black TPU material, and the silver part on the back is a hard plastic. Okay, so the power button on this one works just as good as the Ringke. Okay, so I do think the volume buttons on this one is a little bit better than the Ringke, because they actually stick out a little bit, so you know exactly where they are. Now the alert slider isn't quite as good as the Ringke. You sort of have to press down a little bit harder, but it's not bad actually. And you can see there is a cutout for the microphone and pop-up selfie camera. The pop-up selfie camera seems to work just fine. And you can see on the back, the rear camera cutout is pretty accurate. Now this case might be just a little bit thicker than the other cases. So I guess technically this could be considered rugged or heavy duty, but it's a pretty slim fit, so just sort of. And you can see the cutouts on the bottom for the charging port, the speaker, and the microphone are all pretty accurate, so you're not gonna have to worry about anything being blocked. And this case does have pretty decent screen protection on the top and bottom, somewhat similar to the Ringke case. So the next case we're gonna look at is a luxury case by Ikabu. I have no idea how you say this one. So the sides are sort of a hard TPU. The back is a hard plastic. And then on the back, the top part is sort of a cloth material. And then on the bottom feels almost like suede, which is kind of weird for a smartphone. So the power button works really good on this one. The volume buttons work good as well. And this one has just a sliver of protection for the screen. And the top does have a cutout for the microphone and pop-up camera. The pop-up selfie camera works just fine. And this is the first one that has almost an exact cutout for the camera and flash on the back of the phone, which actually looks pretty nice. And this case is pretty thin, so you're not gonna have to worry about it blocking the cameras. And you can see the bottom does have a cutout for the charging port, microphone, and speaker. Now the weird thing about this case is it's got two little holes down here on the side, but I have no idea why because there's nothing there. So again, this is a pretty minimalistic case. It doesn't offer hardly any protection, but it is going to give you better grip. So if that's what you're looking for, I definitely recommend this case. So the next case we're going to take a look at is the Villi Creation. And this one's more of a folio or wallet style case. So on the inside is just a clear TPU case. I'm not sure why they put this sticker in the back, but whatever. And they have a card slot on the inside of the cover for a credit card or ID cards. It doesn't look like it wakes the phone when you open it. But this one obviously has pretty good screen protection when it's closed. And the volume works pretty well on this case as well. Just keep in mind with this style of case, it's a little bit harder to do with one hand. Now, one nice thing is it does have a magnet on the back to keep the cover out of the way. And there are cutouts on the top for the microphone and the pop-up selfie camera. And it also has cutouts on the back for the rear camera that looks pretty accurate. And again, this case isn't real thick, so it shouldn't block anything. And you also have cutouts for the speaker, USB charging port, and microphone. And this next case is by Sucknap. I'm guessing that's how you say it. This is another one that comes in multiple colors. I believe this one is a military green. Now this one does say rugged shield on it, and it definitely feels a little bit thicker than the other cases. Okay, so the power button on this one, the Ringke case, and the Tudia case are probably my top 3 so far on how the power button should feel. And these guys are smart. They put little ridges on the volume buttons, so it makes it that much easier to find them. Now, unfortunately, the alert slider is almost impossible to use on this case. You can see how thick the case is, which makes it sort of difficult to get down to the slider. Which is a bummer because I think this one has the best screen protection of the TPU cases so far. Even a little bit more on the edges than the other cases. And on the top, there's plenty of space for the pop-up selfie camera and microphone. And there's a nice cutout for the rear camera and flash. And right there is where you can see this is just a little bit thicker than some of the other TPU cases. Finally, we have another case that makes it easy to get to the SIM card tray. Then you got really nice cutouts for the charging port, microphone, and speaker. So far, this is definitely one of my favorite cases. I just wish you could get to the alert slider a little bit easier. The next case is by Vedett, and it's a crystal clear, soft TPU case, mainly to prevent scratches. Okay, so this one is almost identical to the case that comes with the OnePlus 7 Pro. Although it feels just a little bit thinner and a little bit softer. For some reason, this one feels like it has a little bit more grip than the one that comes with the OnePlus 7 Pro. I'm really liking the power button on this, that's for sure. And the volume buttons work really good as well. Now the edge protection on this one is almost non-existent. It's just a real sliver. But this is mainly just to give you a little extra grip and to prevent scratches. And the alert slider on this one works perfect actually. So I'm definitely liking that. And there's plenty of room for the pop-up selfie camera. And there's also a cutout for the microphone. This one has a pretty nice cutout for the rear cameras on the back and the flash. Then you got a cutout for the microphone, USB-C charging port, and speaker. And this one's really nice because it does show off the nebula blue, which is probably why OnePlus included a clear case with the phone. Now this next case is by Androgate. And there's almost one guarantee when there's a new phone that comes out, there will be a case that looks pretty much identical to this. I've seen this style of case with pretty much every single phone that comes out. Although surprisingly, this one feels like actual TPU. Some of those I've tried feel like a hard plastic and are really horrible to use. This one actually feels a lot better. Okay, so the power button on this one works really good. Same thing with the volume button, that works really nice. And they do make sure it sticks out just a little bit so you can tell where they are. Wow, this case is really surprising me. The alert slider works almost perfectly. And you can see the cutouts for the top for the microphone. And there's plenty of space for the pop-up selfie camera. A really nice cutout for the cameras on the back and the flash. Then there's a cutout for the charging port, microphone, and speaker. The nice thing about this case is there is a little bit of extra lip, even on the sides. And of course, the nice thing about this type of case is the built-in kickstand. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this case. I just wish they could come up with a different pattern for the back that doesn't look like tire tread. Now this next case is a Como USA case. And it sort of looks like our carbon fiber black one that we did earlier. This one's really slim and pretty flimsy. The power button is super easy to use on this one, and probably one of the easiest volume buttons to use. Same thing with the alert slider. It feels almost like there is no case on it. And you can see there's a cutout for the microphone and plenty of space for the pop-up selfie camera. The cutout for the rear camera and flash is pretty accurate as well. And you've got cutouts for the USB-C charging port, speaker, and microphone. There is just a little bit of a lip on this one to protect the screen. Not a lot, but at least it's there. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this one if you're looking for minimal protection. Now this next case is a Libra. Now you can see the clip on the back, which actually clips on to the case and acts as a screen protector. Oh, and it also looks like they include a tempered glass screen protector. Although as you can see, this wouldn't cover the curved part of the screen. And I don't know about you, but for a rugged case, don't you think it would have some protection on the top and bottom? Because on this one, there's no protection. It is nice that they leave the power button and the alert slider exposed. Same thing with the volume buttons. So yeah, this one definitely feels like there's no case on it because there barely is a case on it. Now they do have a soft, almost like felt material on the inside. But even if you slide this into the holster, there's still no protection for the end of the phone. And one other thing this case does have is a built-in kickstand. So that's always nice to have. So for me, this case is just okay, but I feel there's a lot better options out there. So this next one is a clear case by SKGT Slamming. And this one's actually very similar to the clear case I showed earlier. The difference is this one has some added protection on the corners, and it might actually be a hair thicker. Power button on this one works really good. Volume buttons are super easy to use on this case. Now the alert slider feels pretty much like there's no case on this one. And you can see there's a cutout for the microphone and pop-up selfie camera. And this one has an exact cutout for the rear camera and flash. You can also see the cutouts for the microphone, USB-C charging port, and speaker on the bottom. And so I probably like this one a little bit better just because not only can you see the nebula blue on the back of the case, it also has the added protection on the corners. It's going to give you a little bit better shot of surviving. And the lip on the front is just enough to protect the screen. Now this next case is another one by Sucknap. This one is a navy blue carbon fiber on the back, which isn't quite as thick as the military green one earlier. But the power button works really good. And the volume buttons work really good and are nice and clicky. Unfortunately, like some of these other cases we've looked at, it doesn't have a lot of protection for the screen, but just enough on this one. Not quite as good as the clear case we just looked at, but not bad. Nice cutouts on the top for microphone and pop-up selfie camera. And the cutout for the rear camera looks nice and accurate. And you can see the thickness of this case from the side angle. And you have nice cutouts on the bottom for microphone, USB-C charging port, and speaker. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this case if you're looking for minimal protection. And this next case is by Uba. Okay, so I've had a case like this before. This one is actually really nice. This one has plenty of lip protection for the screen. And it's just a real nice grippy material around the edges. Now the power button on this one is definitely one of my favorites. And same thing with the volume buttons. This one's real nice and clicky and super easy to use. Finally, we have an alert slider that feels like there's no case on it whatsoever. And there's a cutout for the microphone and pop-up selfie camera. And you can see on the back is nice and clear with a cutout for the rear cameras. I forgot to take the plastic off on the inside. And the nice thing is we've got another one that makes it easy to get to the SIM card tray. And then you've got the cutouts for the USB-C charging port, microphone, and speaker. So this is gonna be definitely the top 1 or 2 case that I've looked at out of all of these. So if you've made it this far into the video, you may want to say thanks by subscribing, and don't forget to give a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This is Brian from Fishbee Productions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.